Okay, so the next chapter in your book was confident. I always used to tell managers that I was training, make a decision, whether it's right or wrong, make a decision and stick with it. Don't be wishy-washy, or don't say, well, I got to call so and so, or I got to get permission, or I have to do that. That's not good leadership. That's what it means about confidence. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to make the wrong decision. You might get scolded for making the wrong decision, but at least to your associates and people that report to you, you're making a decision. Okay, reality means that, hey, you might be given a certain budget to work within. You want to, spend more money. You would like to do more, but you're given a budget that you have to maintain and work within. And the reality is, if you're going to be a good leader or a good manager, you can't go to your associates and say, oh, we don't have enough money. We can't do this. Because whatever your view is, whatever your vision or your attitude is, it's going to rub off on your employees. And attitude comes from the top down. If everyone's got bad attitude or they don't like their job and everyone's unhappy, it starts from the top down. Many people don't know what the budget is. They don't know you can't spend more. They don't know unless you go and tell them that. Okay, good leaders are self-starting. In other words, you want the objectives, you want the game plan, you want the time frame, you want a bullet list of what's expected, but let me do it. Let me get it done. Not everyone achieves things and get things done the same, especially many of your generation here in class. That's what you expect. My generation, my bosses were all World War II, ex-World War II people, where they expected you to clock in and clock out, and they expected you to sit at a desk. Even if you had nothing to do and no task, you had to clock in and clock out. Well, the new generation today is, give me that task, give me that list. I'll get it done. I'll get it done within the timeline, and when I'm done, I'm done. And that to me is a better. People are more happy. They're actually learning now with everything going on with COVID. People are getting more done at home, more accomplished at home than they were with all the wasted time at the job. And they're calling it around the water cooler. They're saying people that stand around the water cooler at work are getting less done. People now are getting due dates and things done on a timely manner because they're given the parameters, they're given the guidelines, they're working at their own time from home, and they're getting their projects done. To me, that's what I would be looking for. Now, sometimes in our business, you can't, because you're a restaurant manager, you're a chef, you have to be there at those certain shifts. But there are goals and things that we have to do when we're writing new menus, when we're looking for new vendors, when we're trying to get new prices and getting bids on prices. These kind of things that if you know the time frame that you have to have them done, and when you have to present them to the committee or to the task force you're on, you have to be self-starting and motivated. You have to get the job done. And our industry is very frustrating. There's so many parameters. There's so many different things to manage. So you have to learn how to take things one day at a time. You have to learn to move on. If things don't go your way, you have to change. Chefs have learned how to adapt. If you work with a really good executive chef or food and beverage person, they learn how to change and adapt with the parameters.
Yeah, even though at work, we don't know what's going on in the company. Actually, you have to go and ask, and I'm usually the one. I'm usually the one that asks.
So, introvert managers usually do not provide motivation. Most introverts are accountants, comptrollers, or people that are behind the scenes and are numbers people. Okay, transformational leader is someone that they
prefer to work by themselves, really.
I'm sorry.
I said they prefer to work by themselves. Those introverts,
yes, that's correct.
Yeah, they prefer to work by themselves. Yeah.
Excuse me for a second. I gotta send this text out. Okay, so those are different type of there. All right, so transformation and action, Martin Luther King, um, Abraham Lincoln, and Mahatma Gandhi. So charismatic leaders. Some of the best hospitality leaders were charismatic, especially in sales. I worked with some of the best sales people that they wanted to be involved in the food and beverage operations, that they wanted to be involved with everything going on. So the authoritarian approach. Can anyone give me an example of when the authoritarian approach would be needed in our industry? When would you have to be authoritarian in our business?
I guess when it comes to food safety, when there's no room for mistakes, when people's health are on the line, you have to be firm, I guess.
Okay, so you have to be firm. There's no, in food safety, there's no, you being laissez-faire, oh, well, don't worry about it. Oh, that's okay, or that kind of thing. Any other example, Thelma, and banquets, caterings, when did you have to be authoritarian?
That's when you have to make firm decisions on certain things like on the menu, pricing, stuff like that. You can't be maybe I can charge this, maybe I can charge that. You have to be firm.
Well, for me, it was when the kitchen couldn't get the food out.
Oh, that too. Well,
so
you have a kitchen, but when it's delivery time for me. You have to take the stuff to deliver to the other persons.
Yeah, people are not.
Or can I say, like, when you control what is going on, like all the activities and stuff?
Well, you're going into a kitchen and the guests are waiting in the dining room and you can't get the food out, and everyone's laissez-faire, taking their time out. That's when you have to go in like a general and start delegating.
Oh, yeah.
So I would have to go on the line and start taking things over as a director of food and beverage and start telling people, I want you over here, I want you doing this.
Right.
So in hotels, you have the big conveyor belts where you plate the food, and you would say, you serve this, you serve that, you bring me hot plates over. Anyone in a position now where they have to be authoritarian?
I used to do that, like, based on what you just explained. I remember when I was working at Walmart as a customer service when the line were busy. So I didn't just stay there at customer service because I had to help the line. So I was like, help me out in this, and then I'll jump, like teamwork.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Well, so what I'm getting at is there are certain times of these types of leadership when you have to be one of them. So an authoritarian or dictator is not good all the time, but there are few times when you have to be like that. And a good example is in high pressure, high stressful, when you're trying to get something done, or a guest is unsatisfied, or you might have engineering, something's broken in the room, and the engineer says, well, I'm going to take care of building so and so, and I'll be over there. And you might have to, as a manager, say, no, you need to get over there right now. This is a priority, and that's authoritarian.
Well, that's a strong word, though, Professor. I think I would just say I'm just very practical and very fair.
Well, practical it is a good term, but again, these are leadership styles that are written by authors, and
I know
there are many different books, and there's so many written research papers and books and studies and different things on these topics, and case studies. So this is how they categorize them. So basically, what we're saying is an authoritarian dictator won't get anything on anybody. And you don't want to be that type of person all the time.
Cool. Because people get their back up
when
when you
you
start
have-
behaving like that. People get their back up and they don't want to listen after a while. If you behave like that all the
Well,
time.
I gave you a couple examples where you had to be there too. So let's say the opposite, laissez-faire.
Oh.
You're taking your time. You know, in the food and beverage industry, time is the essential.
Essential.
The clock is your worst enemy. So that means you can't just put a banquet. The guests are sitting down at noon and they have to have the plates in front of by noon. You can't just say the kitchen's backed up and this is for a banquet, and oh, we can't get it out. We have another banquet we have to plate. They'll get it in a half
You
hour.
don't want to hear.
No, it doesn't work that way. So what I'm trying to say is that there's certain times when you have to be authoritarian, but laissez-faire is the opposite, where you can't be laissez-faire at certain times, okay, and things like that. So being a leader or a manager too, people don't want associates do not want their manager to be their friend. Associates want to know, what is my job? What do you want from me? What time do you want me to come in? When can I leave? Those type of things. They don't want someone to come in and be their bud and, you know, hey, don't worry about coming in or come in late or things like that. Or they go out partying with them. And the other side of that is a manager doesn't want an associate like that, because what if you have an associate that's supposed to open or close and you become friends with them? They're going to start taking advantage of you and saying, oh, well, I'm not coming in tonight. I was out too late last night, those kind of things. So you need to be straight and on the narrow to be a good manager. So the participatory approach means that you're not enabling people. You're not empowering them. It means you'd rather say, oh, I'd rather do this myself instead of, you know, teaching you how to do it or showing you the right way. It gets done better myself. Well, in large organizations or operations, you can't do that. You need to train people and surround yourself with the best people, because you'll be swamped, you'll be overwhelmed. Because there's a lot of things that go on, a lot of moving parts in a hotel operation. So self-fulfilling prophecy. Positive expectations will bring about good results. Negative expectations will bring about negative results. Encourage your employees to contribute to the decision making. So decision making is, if you're writing a new menu, create a committee of people. I brought people in from all different departments to create a committee to write new menus or new themes for new restaurants. I involved many different people and they got all excited about that. One thing we also did was we had a monthly employee luncheon, and we tried to schedule it. Not everyone could make it there, but we tried to schedule on a regular basis where we would give out employee awards. And the awards weren't just like a plaque and a pat on the back. The awards were things that they would want. A 2-day day trip, you know, maybe a spa day trip, things like that. You have to encourage. Okay, so if you isolate yourself from your employees and you have a negative attitude and you're authoritarian, they are not going to want to work for you. They're not going to get things done. They're not going to feel like they're included. They're going to be unhappy, because you're having a narrow vision, and you might be one of those people that take that attitude. If I do it myself, things get done better. Most accessible, make yourself more accessible as a manager. Encourage, empower, interact with your employees. More meetings, more team building things off property. Do more team building events, things like that, and expose yourself. If you're a manager that's just sitting in an office and yelling out the door, you're not going to be successful. You need to be on the floor. You know, I was a director of operations.
And teach.
I was all over that property. And teach.
And teach.
That's right.
And teach.
Mm-hmm. Teach. And that's why in some of my classes, I have people write training manuals, because that's teaching. Those are classes. Those are workshops. Banquets were huge. So Marriott trained the best people. But at this particular time, Marriott didn't pay well. You cap out. And they would leave you at that ceiling where you capped out, and they didn't promote. So when Marriott had excellent banquet cooks and banquet chefs trained, I'd go over and steal them. I'd give them bigger bonus packages, pay them better, and they were trained. They'd come in and run my kitchens for, for larger sums and bigger banquets. And I promoted them. And some of them went on to be sous chefs and executive chefs. Now, I'm going back years ago. Things have since changed. But that's because they didn't take care of those people well. And they used to poach people like that. Okay. So if you're a leader, one thing is don't tell people you're going to do something and don't do it. Don't promise and follow up. Don't, wiggle the carrot, and not do anything. Okay, a lot of leaders like that. They promise people they'll get promoted, they'll get a bonus, or so-and-so is retiring, you'll have their position. They'll never do that. Or there's an opening at a sister property across town, and they're looking for a certain person you could get promoted. And they don't follow up. That's the worst thing you could do for an employee, because within a month, they'll be gone. And the other thing we just said, leaders must realize they cannot be everywhere at once. You have to train, empower, and delegate, and follow up. Okay, so here's what we just discussed. It's a leadership checklist. I emailed you these slide presentations so you guys can look at it and review it. So this is something that's always good for training. Anyone have any questions or comments or input on leadership? Okay, so what if you had to define a good leader? Has anyone worked with a good leader? And can you give me an example? Some of your mentors that you guys are interviewing with.
Oh, it seemed like I've had a couple general managers that have the same personality type. They're kind of like Boy Scouts. They do everything by the book, and they know everything about everything. I mean, every little part or background to a machine or why something's got to be done, and they'll kind of tell you, step by step, or why something has to be done a certain way. Those two guys, they almost, I could swear that, they didn't look nothing alike, but their personalities were identical, and they both, I don't know, it was, for me, it was nice to be explained, and, they motivated me as well, but I guess they were pretty good leaders. And I did have a question too. I didn't want to get ahead of myself. I didn't unmute fast enough, but I'm not sure how you say it, laissez-faire, where is that management style used?
Laissez-faire.
Laissez-faire?
Laissez-faire. So laissez-faire. So one of our presidents, President Reagan, was considered a laissez-faire leader. It means hands off.
Mm-hmm.
You're not a dictator. You're not an autocrat. You're hands off. You'll tell people what you want, how you want it, and what your expectation is, and then you back away.
Okay.
But that could be good or bad. It's not all bad, but you got to follow up. You got to empower. But if you empower and it doesn't get done, you have to reprimand. You have to discipline. And empowerment means that you're giving an extension of yourself. So those two managers that you just talked about, if they empower you, they want you to be like them. So you're not going to learn all that overnight, but they're going to give you pieces of their management style or management skills that they want you to achieve. So empowerment could be, you're an executive chef in a large operation, and you empower your sous chef to be the general of the kitchen. Empowerment could be a catering sales manager, teaches someone how to write BEOs and how to sell or sit down with a customer to sell and write a BEO. They finally let go and let them go on their own, and they limit to them the size of the group and the BEOs that they're writing. And that's the only way a person can lead. I mean, to learn and train to understand that. Laissez-faire would be.
Yeah, like a management style that you might manage different people different ways. And if you got somebody that has been with you for a while that you trust and you empower them, you might use that management style with that person. or a certain group of people?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I had certain people that I called them like bull workers. I could give them a list of stuff to get done in the prep kitchen or stocking the bars or in, cleaning or anything like that. Give them a list and write it all out. They'd have it done by a certain period of time. But if I told them to write that list to get things done, they wouldn't know what to do, where to start. I couldn't empower them.
Okay.
So laissez-faire can mean that, why I'm bringing that up is you do have to treat everyone differently. Where I could have another person that say, hey, I need to start writing a prep list for this menu. You would know they could do it. Or, a front end person would be allowing someone to book reservations through the PBX or PMS system on their own, or having someone go into revenue management, put the headphones on and start working and selling all these different room rates to get the hotel at a certain occupancy. Well, you're not going to have someone in there that doesn't understand the cost of what a room costs, what your break-even point is, versus someone that knows that, and they're going to try and get the highest rate, and maybe only 25% of the hotel is sold on social media, so you're getting the most revenue out of your hotel. So there's certain people that like you said, that have been working for you a long period of time that you wouldn't trust. And if you remember one of my first lectures in the first week, I said a lot of your general managers will travel with their executive chef, food and beverage director, and even some places sales manager. When they get a great opportunity in a large resort, they bring their key team with them because these are people they can trust. Okay. But if that doesn't happen, you have to learn to train people and trust them. So what this lecture was about is that not all management styles you'll be the same all the time, and not all management styles will be the same with every person. And that's why I was trying to give you an example of a autocrat, because Hitler was an autocrat. Hitler was a Democrat, a dictator. But a lot of people written books, and he was a terrible human being. Don't get me wrong. But people have written books. Is he a good leader? Is he a good leader? So he got people to follow him. So there's been many books and many studies and things written about that type of person. But what we're saying is you don't want to be that person all the time, but there's certain times when you have to take the bull by the horn and just you're the manager, you're the leader, the final results fall on you. You're the last person, so you gotta take the bull by the horns and say, I need this done, I need this, this, and this, I need done this manner right away. Now, some people get upset, and you'll have to call them aside later on, and you might have to apologize. You might have to say, I had to do this to get this done.
Right.
I think you remember that story I told you about the one sous chef I had working for me. He couldn't get 70 covers off the line. It's a restaurant that did 450, 500 a night.
Yeah.
And eventually one night, I was executive chef. We had 3 hotels, convention center, did 10,000 meals a week. I was walking through one night, and I had 2 sous chefs, a restaurant chef on that particular restaurant. And I was walking through one night, and they couldn't get the food off the line. So I had to kick them off the line to get them out of the weeds to get the food off the line. You got to work your way out of it. But the thing is he wasn't working his way out. He was screaming, yelling, telling people they were stupid. You didn't know what you're doing, instead of saying, fire this, ordering this, working their way out of the weeds. He was making things worse. So I had to take charge and be the autocrat. And I told everyone to be quiet. I took the printers off the line. The only one who had a printer was me. And that's when I said, ordering this, firing this, pickup. We had to work our way out. It wasn't easy. I had dupes everywhere trying to work their way out, but they never should have got into that to begin with.
Right.
But those are examples in food and beverage. The rooms division is going to be reservations. The power goes out, the backup generator doesn't go on, and you got a line of people that have reservations. What do you do? There are a lot of scenarios that you have to work through.
What do you do?
Anyone else? Questions? What do you do? You start finding.
I had to ask. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it, but what did you say? The power's out. What do you do with the power's out?
Well, if the power goes out, usually a backup generator will come on. hopefully by that night
Okay.
you would have already printed out all your reservation lists and all your check-ins and things like that. And basically you take the first guest, first come, first serve. The main thing is to get them into their rooms. That's the main thing.
Okay.
You know,
And the
there are
chef,
go ahead.
did you end up keeping that chef? And
No.
how long was he there before that? He was gone?
Within 3 months. Within 3 months, because that wasn't.
I was just curious.
That wasn't the first time, and he treated people very poorly. He was the autocratic. He wasn't a leader. He had the mentality that he graduated from the top culinary schools, and he knows more than people that have been working in restaurants and hotels their whole lives, and so it didn't work out well, and I let him fail a couple of times to.
That's not an author. It's a brat.
Yeah, it was definitely, because I'll tell you, there's some people that are not formally educated that worked in restaurants their whole lives. They're some of the best cooks I ever had.
Yeah.
When New Orleans cuisine started becoming hot in New England. This was before everyone knew about New Orleans. We didn't have social media. They wanted me to write a whole New Orleans jazz Sunday brunch menu. And some of the best cooks in New Orleans were guys that were ex-contractors, they were construction workers. When the winter came, they couldn't work outside, so they would cook. So on their down season, I brought all these guys up to New England, paid for them to stay in the hotel. And when they worked the cook's line, they worked in their work boots and overalls. And they would put it like on a chef coat on and a derby hat, like I don't know what you call it, not a cap, but a hat. And these were the best cooks that ever could train me under New Orleans Cajun cuisine. And these guys only did those jobs when the construction work was down. And when we rolled out our menu, we became one of the most famous New Orleans jazz. I brought up a New Orleans jazz band, everything, brunch in New England at that whole operation. Best tips, best working conditions, brand new equipment. Within most companies, really on that property.
You get too comfortable in the company.
Yeah, within the company. Why would they transfer you? It's an industry standard. Why would they do that?
They don't want you to get too comfortable at that company. They try to.
And that's right, Thelma. But why would that be a problem? Getting too comfortable? Because
after a while you get lax. You get too. I don't want to say food friendly, but
you're right. You get too lax. But what else? What have we been talking about? What have we been talking about as far as what's the most important thing I've been telling you guys you have to know? Your numbers.
Your numbers.
So what happens, as Thelma said, they get too lax. They start trusting other people.
Yeah. They're not paying attention.
They give their job away.
Yeah.
They become more, out on the golf course or out in the dining room, or they're, whining and dining and things like that, where they lose control of their operation. And so that's become the norm in the industry. Take it one step further is they know the operation and they start putting their own little systems in place where people are getting more bonus and people are making more money, and other situations have happened where embezzlement and things like that. So they know if you get too comfortable, it's time to move you or promote you. That's why if you're
Publix does that. Publix does that.
Almost every hotel company.
Yeah, that's what they do. Each manager stays at a supermarket for like 3, 4, sometimes the top they stay there is like 3.5 years to 4, or even less, and then they move them to a different area. As soon as they start getting too comfortable, they move them around. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the same.
Or the lateral move.
If you're a supervisor, let's say a restaurant supervisor, and a restaurant manager position opens up, or a director of food and beverage opens up in a large property, and you happen to be promoted, they're not going to promote you within your.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you. Bye, y'all.